Let's think of video games as a roller coaster. Some roller coasters are really, really long and you are on one roller coaster the entire time. Sometimes it's just going straight downhill, others ups and downs or loop-de-loops are all over the place. But then there's other types of roller coasters. There's other types of video games. These are, I would consider, like open world games. Now these games you start on a roller coaster and as you go through it branches off. Maybe there's alternate decisions which lead you to another roller coaster, or you have different tasks to complete which are a completely separate roller coaster. And basically one roller coaster leads to other roller coasters which leads to other roller coasters. Now both of these are completely fine, and I think it comes down to more so how you build the roller coaster. Recently I was playing South of Midnight, and parts of this roller coaster are really honed in and well designed, but it also seems as though parts of this roller coaster are completely missing, or maybe the roller coaster just quite isn't right. But at the same time, some of the parts of this roller coaster are absolutely incredible. Today, I'm going to explain to you exactly what I'm talking about because, ladies and gentlemen, this is my review of South of Midnight. And yes, we'll come back to the roller coasters. So South of Midnight is told through old folk tales, but specifically South of Midnight tells the story of someone by the name of Hazel Flood. There is a hurricane going on and you are trying to pack up when your mother gets home. You get in a big fight with your mother, and as you are packing up to get out of there, the flood comes and sweeps your home away with your mother inside. The rest of the journey, you as Hazel are going along trying to rescue your mother. And along the way, you find out that essentially you have superpowers. You are a weaver, which is essentially someone who can mend the tapestry of life, taking these strands, putting them together, pulling them apart, and being able to help people who are going through very, very troubled times. Now, the story is told in two ways. Number one, with Southern folklore. Now, this part is pretty cool, bringing in old tales like Big Fish, Briar Rabbit, and other Southern tales that I certainly wasn't familiar with. But I was streaming this for a very brief period of time, and people were coming in and saying, hey, I'm from the South. I grew up with these type of stories. Is a pretty cool thing. As someone who's from Canada, to get involved with these type of stories is something that wouldn't happen unless something like this existed. So you have the folklore, but then you also have these incredibly dark stories of people that you run across. People who killed their father, people who lost their babies, people who made horrible decisions and are living with it. And there's these kind of metaphors as you go through the game, like bottling up your emotions and things along those lines that you address all the way through. The story is one of the best parts about this game, and if it wasn't for the story, I don't think I would see myself following through with this entire game, because where the story is fantastic, one of the areas of the roller coaster that's rather lackluster is the gameplay in and of itself. There's really two parts to the gameplay. There is the combat and then the parkour and exploration. Starting out with combat, very early on, you are given these powers. It's what you're seeing in the top left-hand corner. And yes, there are ways of leveling them up, which we'll get to in a minute. But as a whole, from the very beginning, the way of fighting is pretty much exactly the same as the way it is at the end. And after maybe 10, 15 of these fights that are cordoned off super simplistically, where you can see you kind of walk through this fog and immediately you start to fight, each and every fight is pretty much exactly the same. Now, the one area that normally is a break from this is the boss fights, which for the most part are very good. One of my favorites was very early on, so no spoilers here. You were fighting against a crocodile, and there's certain gameplay elements that change in this fight that are different than every other fight. Now, one complaint, slight spoiler here, but I won't give anything story-wise away, is the final boss is almost the exact same fight as fighting any of the other fights throughout the game, which I thought was a huge misstep, just because the fighting gets incredibly boring and is probably the most boring part of the entire game. Now, the other part of the gameplay is the exploration and parkour, and this in my opinion is the best part of the gameplay. There are some small puzzles in there and gameplay mechanics that get added throughout the game, but as a whole it's pretty much the same thing. Float around the map, slide, grapple, very simplistically, and then there are upgrades you can find. There are floofs and then ways to upgrade your health. So the floofs, you then get into a way of upgrading your fighting abilities. And by the very end, if you've gotten a good chunk of these, fighting becomes, in my opinion, very, very easy because of these upgrades that you can get, which makes sense. That's like leveling up in any other game. So the exploration part is good, but if the combat would have been better, it would have made the exploration even more important, because then finding those upgrades would have been of more importance. But exploration was better than the fighting, in my opinion, but the gameplay was really the weakest part. Where this game actually stands out, though, is the ambiance and the frickin' music. So there's really two types of music within South of Midnight. There is what you are listening to here, which is kind of like the big band style jazz or blues music from the South, which is awesome. It's actually one of my favorite types of music and matches the aesthetic of the game so well. And this alone, I truly believe, could have won awards just for this style music matching with the game so well. But this wasn't the only type of music that they did in the game. They also have custom created songs for who you're fighting against, the bosses, and even the story. Take a listen to this.
A house, a boat, and a church are just meals for Tom, they say, for Tom.
This song is about an alligator, specifically the alligator that you end up fighting in the boss fight. Now, this tells the story. The entire song tells the story of how Tom became so big, what happened with his owners, how at one point he ended up eating his entire owner, and this is every single level throughout the game, where they tell you the story through cutscenes and where they tell you the story through notes that you find around the map. All of this story is brought together in these songs that are written for each level. So whether you are fighting against a boss or running around parkouring, these songs are playing in the background telling you the story. A story of brothers who killed each other, a story of the crocodile, a story of your mother, a story of everything, all put forth through songs, played in this southern style like we saw with the other ones, but all custom built to tell you the story in just one other way. It's the best use of music I have seen in a video game in a really long time. And let's just be honest, the songs are a banger as well.
I break my bones, I rend my skin, bricks turn to dust, and rage floods in, it sears my soul.
So a song like this one will tell you what's going on with the story. It'll tell you how to fight in a boss fight. There's even one puzzle where it tells you how to get through a maze. Really cool stuff. Now, the interesting thing about this game is it's not very long. I would say between 10 and 12 hours long for a linear game. And replayability wise, honestly, there's not too much. You can go back for the rest of the collectibles, get all the floofs like we talked about before, but the replayability really isn't there. Now, the important part about this game is it's a day one Game Pass game. However, if you don't have Game Pass, it comes in at $50 Canadian, so I'm assuming it's $40 American, which I honestly think for this game is a little bit pricey. I think this is a perfect Game Pass game. It's a game where if you own Game Pass, you just sit down, play through an amazing story, listen to some amazing music as you do so, and it's just kind of like a popcorn game. And I don't say that because you just want more and more. I say that because you literally have like a bowl of popcorn beside you, and after each gameplay segment you get through, you have a handful of popcorn, move on to the next one. This is truly what I believe Game Pass is made for. Game Pass, I don't think is like a games as a service model style where you go and get those. It's where you get these like one-off stories that are told really well. And for a day one Game Pass game, I think this is definitely good enough to be there. But if you don't have Game Pass and you're like, should I spend the $40, $50 on this one? I truly believe waiting for this to go on sale, I think 20, $25 is a solid price for this one, but on Game Pass, I think it's nearly perfect what people would be expecting for this one. Now, there's one other thing to say about this game, and it's once again going back to the roller coasters. Recently, I played Split Fiction, and Split Fiction was a game where quite literally every 5 to 15 minutes, you would be placed on a brand new roller coaster that was completely different from the one that you were just on. Every single time you were doing something new, some sort of new gameplay, well, this story was getting pushed forward. It was one roller coaster that kept changing. One minute you'd be diving down a hill and then loops and loops and loops, and then back down a hill and then through a corkscrew. It was different every 5 to 15 minutes. South of Midnight, you're essentially going to be on one roller coaster that's incredibly short that just keeps going over and over and over again on that exact same roller coaster. You just don't get off. Yes, the story is being pushed forward. Yes, you're getting new music, but the gameplay experience is the same in the first hour as it is in the 10th hour. And if you're expecting something new as the game is pushed forward, you're not. You're stuck on that roller coaster. Story's really good, the gameplay is lackluster, and that is what you are going to be getting with South of Midnight. Something that's very repetitive that tells a damn good story. So do I recommend South of Midnight? If you have Game Pass, 100%. Get on there, play the game. It's really good. If you're buying the game, again, I think this one is kind of like a wait for a sale situation. But what I will say is the writing in this, the music in this, incredibly good. If you took them and paired them with a team that excelled in gameplay, this could have been something phenomenal. Like, I think we've seen a lot of games lately with really terrible writing, and this is not one of those. And as a person that really enjoys great story in a game, that's what kept me going on this one. The mystery of the story, trying to find out what a weaver is, the story of what's going on with your mother, all of that is fantastic. Little lackluster on the gameplay. So yeah, if you have Game Pass, check this one out. I think you'll really enjoy your time with it. And then when you're done, you're done. You don't have to play like 50 more hours of bloated open world garbage. So yeah, I recommend it. But if you're gonna buy it, wait for a sale.
And his whispers to you. Oh,